I am Barry Malphus. As most people here would know, I would think, the chairman of the policy committee, and this is our October 11th, 2022 policy committee meeting for October. We had once considered not having this meeting today, but for several reasons, the staff wanted to get a couple of these policies done, and I'm always thankful for their willingness to do that. So we are meeting in October. It is unlikely that we will meet in December. We will be meeting in November, but as of now, it's unlikely we'll meet in December. But there are several policies we want to go over in November, and so we'll be meeting then. But with that, I will call this particular meeting to order. It is 3:02, and I would ask that Miss Lori would make our would do our statement of announcement, please.
A meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the October 11th, 2022 Policy Committee meeting was distributed October 7th, 2022 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Thank you, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is the invocation, which I will give now. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here. We would ask that you would allow each person here listening and each provider, particularly here listening, to realize that what we are here for is for the people that we serve and not for them or for their organization or for anybody that works for their organization. We would ask that you would that all would be mindful of that and mindful of that we are here to help those with disabilities in any way that we know is the best way to do it. We would ask that you would keep each one of us safe throughout the day and until we are able to meet again as a commission later this month. We'd ask that you would use our knowledge to further your kingdom in any way that you would see fit through this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. And I think everybody here knows that we do these meetings through unanimous consent. So if I don't hear any objection, we're going to move through adopting the agenda and the other items rather than doing a motion in a second. So in 3 seconds, if I hear nothing, we're going to adopt the agenda as written. The agenda is adopted as written, and the next item on the agenda, number 5, is the approval of the summary notes from the September 6th meeting. If there's no changes that the committee has or the staff has to those minutes, they will be approved as written if I don't hear anything in 3 seconds. The staff notes are approved. The next item on the agenda is the old business, which is death or pending death of persons receiving services from DDSN, which is section 2 of your packets. And there was only one thing on there I wanted to go back through. I know we've been through this, and so I wanted to go, but there's only one thing I wanted to bring up again that I wanted to bring to our attention that we might want to make some slight change to, and that is on page 3, it says where it talks about the wonderful paragraph about that if a family would like to be contacted by a clergy or a religious person, I just think that we should have some level of urgency there to where, because if the family or if the person who has an impending death coming would like to see a minister or a religious person, then we need to say that we would ask that they would do that as quickly as possible, because obviously that's a very important thing in that situation, in any situation to me, but certainly in that situation, it's very important to people. And so I meant to say this last month, but I didn't, that we need to put something like would contact them as soon as possible, or as soon as humanly possible, or something of that sort, so that we expect no delay in that regard. And then, so if there's no objection to adding some couple of words like that, I would just ask that the staff would do that, and that we would, this obviously would be approved at the next commission meeting, because it's already been out for public comment. So this is our, this will be our time to approve it.
Sure, I'll be glad to add a little bit to the end of that sentence. It just says, if the family desires a pastor or other religious person of their choice will be located to minister to the needs of the person and the family, this will be done as quickly as possible. How about that?
This will be considered a priority and will be done as quickly as possible. Would be nice, yeah.
Okay. I got that.
In other words, make it seem like it's important to the commission that to the agency that they would do that. Okay, and then the only other thing I had down here was on the rest of it seems fine. We changed a couple of things to say, at least now that it says, instead of saying 2 hours, at least it says that under number 5, it says that that under no circumstances should it exceed 2 hours. And so that's fine with me. And that's number 5 on page 5. And so that was fine, changed. I appreciate that. And from what we talked about last month, the only other thing that wasn't, or I get, maybe they didn't understand the committee's intent. I don't know exactly on this number, right under where it says notification procedures, and where it says right below notification procedures, and where it says before it says autopsy.
Well,
when I was,
so what page are you on, Commissioner Ruffers?
6.
Okay.
6 of my packet. I assume it would be the same for Michelle on her, but hers is not printed, but I still think it'd be the same. I think it would be the same, because the same thing is sent to me by email. So it'd be page 6. But the only thing I was getting at was that it says that if a family member are unwilling or unable to participate in filling out this form or this report, then a staff member should proceed with the form information and other approved participant records. That's true, but what we was talking about last month was we wanted it documented in that report that the person was either unwilling or unable to fill it out, so therefore we had to. And I just think it's very important that we document that they wouldn't do it and we needed to do it instead of them doing it like they should do. So, I mean, you could figure that out from the fact of who filled it out, but I'd rather it be documented in the report that they had to do that, so that there was no misunderstanding about who did it, who filled it out.
They would have to go in and edit it, right? I'm looking at Ann, who's kind of the document manager.
We could add a sentence and just state an edit will be included, noting the.
An edit should be included in the report.
As to who filled it out, yeah. Or if we filled it out, if we had to fill it out for them. That it should note that they were either unwilling or unable, whichever one it was, to fill it out, and therefore we had to do it.
Okay, we'll add a sentence to that.
That's what the committee was getting to, I think, last month. Maybe we misunderstood, but that's what I was trying to get to. On that, and then I don't think there's anything else on this for me. The 1 hour thing that I was talking about is also on page 9, where it says that not to exceed 2 hours, which is fine. We had talked about 1 hour last month, but we said not to exceed 2. I think that's fine. And we also made a nice change on page 10 that we talked about last month too, on number 3. So that was nicely done. And the only other thing I was going to mention very quickly is that it says under related directives or laws, there might be one other thing that we should put under here that relates to this, but I can't remember what it was from, but it's something somebody should try to find between now and it's certainly nothing that doesn't have to be there, but it was something about something about our health policy and how we decide who is responsible for who we are to contact in certain situations. And that directive might be relevant for this directive, because obviously in a pending death situation, you'd want to know who to contact, or who they should contact. But it was a list of how it was under one of our health policies.
Yeah, it's consent, I think. It's the consent policy. Adult Healthcare Consent Act.
Yeah, that's right. So do y'all think that, I mean, I may be wrong. Do you think that'd be prudent to put underneath this related directives?
I don't think it hurts to put it there.
I don't think it would hurt. I certainly don't think it hurt anything. If y'all think it's relevant, I think it is. If you think it's relevant, then let's just add that to it too, then, and that's it. If y'all don't think it is, we won't, but I just thought it would be.
Yeah, we'll add it.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had for this one. And I'm certainly willing for anybody else to chime in at any time, that's on our committee or on staff, of course. I say on our committee all the time, but I mean staff too when I say that. Most of the time, 90% of the time. But anyway, that's all that I had. If there's no other comments about this policy, then with the changes that we have discussed here today, it'll go straight to the commission next week for approval, and it'll be brought before the commission if I hear no objection in the next 3 seconds. Okay, I heard nothing. So the next item on the agenda is the administrative agency standards, which, by the way, is a very important document. And I'm sorry we haven't updated this before 2017. I wish that this would have been brought to me a year or two ago, or first. And I'm surprised. I'm sorry that I didn't notice it, but there's just so many policies. I have a hard time noticing them all. But it is a very important document that needs to be updated. But under I was just wondering if we might want to put, I don't know whether it would be under 110 or not, but it would be nice, I think, considering the problems we've had in the past, particularly before fee-for-service was implemented, about the problems we had with accurate day program attendance. And so I would think we might want to put something in there that says that we expect them to also keep accurate day program attendance, because we had a tremendous problem with that in the past. And like I say, I don't know if that'd be under 110 or somewhere else, but it looks like to me 110 would be fine, because it's talking about records.
I think 110 is more getting at like confidentiality of records.
Oh.
Less about like service documentation.
I think 114 gets more at what Commissioner Malphus is saying.
Okay, all right, well, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me where it is. That's fine. I just think we need to have that down there for that, because like I say, we've had problems in the past and we don't want those problems anymore. I'm not saying we'd be less likely to have problems under fee for service, I think, but we still want to put it down there about how important it is. Because it is very important to have accurate records in that regard, I think. And then on page 26 of my document, it says governing board, disabilities and special needs, which is another very important document or part of this document. And it says down here that the board of directors, talking about the county boards and or the governing boards, it says that determines the general direction of the agency by establishing policies pertaining to the operation of the agency. By the way, should it say operation of the board or the agency? Because this is talking about county boards, right?
Do you have any problem changing that to board? We'll change both of those agencies to board.
I would
Just
think
it's
so.
clear.
And then it says,
That's what it means. It doesn't mean the agency as in DDSN, so.
right. So we should probably say board. That's what I thought. I just want to make sure that I wasn't wrong. Because I could be wrong, but anyway, the only thing I was going to say about
sure that if it is in fact a county board, that we identify it as a county board or a county provider or something, because I want to make sure we have that differentiation in between the commission and the boards. There's a lot of confusion as to how the boards and the commission interact. And so I just want to make sure that those are identified very clearly. Okay.
Okay, we can take care of that.
Thanks,
That's
Mary.
that's what this section is about. It's about board, the disability, the county boards, I believe. Because we got another section that relates to non-county boards that I'll get to in a minute. But the main thing I wanted to bring up about on this page was, or two things. One was, and by the way, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you being here. I didn't know you was here. On page 203, I mean, in section 203, it says the board of directors determines the general direction of the agency. It really determines more than the general agency. I mean, the general direction. It really determines the governing body. It's really the governing body for the agent. I mean, for the board. So it should say something about either the determines the oversight of the board, or it should say the governing body of the board. I mean, I can think of one case where I don't think it is the governing body, but every other case I can think of, the county board is the governing body for the county board. So I would think it would say governing body there instead of general direction. Or something very similar to that, if y'all want to think of something. If you don't want to
just add the board of directors is the governing body and determines. How about that?
There you go.
Right.
That's better. I mean, that's fine. And determines the general, well, I could say general direction, I guess, yeah. The only other thing on this page was that I saw was 206. It says board meetings and minutes are to comply with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. That's very true. But it probably should also say that we would recommend that they follow Robert's Rules of Order. And the reason I say that is that it is much easier to properly do minutes whenever you follow Robert's Rules of Order. And so I would say that we could at least say we would recommend they also use Robert's Rules of Order. I don't know if you want to require that. I personally would like to require it, but if we don't want to require it, we should certainly at least strongly recommend it. So we can ask the committee what they think about either requiring that or making it a strong recommendation that they use Robert's Rules of Order. And also in that same regard, we should recommend how long they keep their minutes for, because we don't want them just to keep them 1 year and be done with them. We want them to keep them at least 5 to 7 years, like we would recommend they be kept. So we want to say a time limit on there, how long we expect them to keep them.
And the code of laws.
Isn't our timeframes addressed in your, Courtney? Our timeframes addressed, and isn't that addressed?
And a record retention policy.
Right.
Is there a state record retention policy that would apply, or that we could just?
There's a record retention
So
policy
it's
that we use as an agency, but not, I don't think that they use.
Rules in it.
I think that would be, I think the way that it's drafted probably incorporates by reference the records retention. And
Let me pull up 30.
Commissioner Malthus, it's your preference, but I would have some reluctance to require folks to follow Robert's Rules of Order, because typically, as a matter of governance, that's part of the process of a governing board, is to establish the operating rules, but we can require it.
Well, we could at least say that we require them to have some sort of operating rules so that they can properly conduct minutes, because minutes is what's very important to know what happened at the meeting. So they either need to use Robert's Rules of Order or some other guidance for some other, which there are very few other guidances that I know of, but there's only one other one that I personally know of, but it's not used as much as Robert's Rules of Order. But anyway, we need to say something like Robert's Rules of Order or some other standard.
We
They
just
need to
say
use a certain standard is what I'm trying to say.
Would it be sufficient to just say that they're required to have rules of procedure with which they abide to adopt? That they're required to adopt.
Consistent rules of procedure would work, yeah.
I mean, 201 says they meet all state and local laws and regulations related to composition and operation. Is that sufficient?
Well, no, because that's one code. I mean, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and read what that exact code says, whether that's sufficient or not. I don't know, but I do know that we could at least recommend that they use Robert's Rules of Order or something similar to it, because they gotta use some procedure. I don't know why you wouldn't use Robert's Rules of Order, but if you want to use something else, I guess we can't prevent them from doing it. But because if you don't use some, I don't mean to belabor this point, but if you don't use some direct standard, then your minutes are not going to be consistent. And the minutes are important that we know what happened at a meeting in case we ever need to know, or they needed to know. That's why I was saying how important it was they keep them for a long period of time.
If we write that they shall adopt and abide by rules of procedure, would that be sufficient?
Yeah, some rules of procedure, yeah. Some consistent rules of procedure would work, yeah. They have to have some consistency in that, and they have to use some rules of procedure, yeah. I would be happy with that.
I want to take a look at
why don't you say some nationally recognized rules of procedure, such as Robert's Rules of Order, shall be designated at the very first whatever meeting and adopted as the standard by which the rules of order. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I don't know of anything else out there in the world that's a rules of order, but there may be something that is better than Robert's Rules of Order, but that sure has been the standard for 200 years. And
That's right.
If you just said shall adopt a nationally recognized, such as blah blah blah, Robert's Rules of Order. How about that? Does that help?
Yeah, something nationally recognized. That's very good, David. Yeah, some standard that's nationally recognized. Yeah, that's good.
I think there is something other than Robert's Rules of Order. This memory of mine, I'm trying to think when I heard about it, and that memory goes back a long way that I'd heard there was something else out there.
That's right. And I don't know, and honestly, I can't tell you what the name of it is right now, but I've heard of one other thing in my life that's nationally recognized, but I don't know what it is offhand. But and by the way, if there's a board that's listening right now that uses a different thing other than Robert's Rules of Order that's nationally
Let us
recognized,
know.
we'd like to hear about it. I mean, I'd like you to send me an email and tell me what it is. And if that would be fine to use.
Commissioner Malphus, I can't off the top of my head think of another nationally recognized rules of order, but I can say that I have served as counsel to a number of nonprofit and for-profit boards who have adopted bylaws and rules of procedures that are not Robert's rules. And that was the only reason that I said, so long as they adopt something and abide by it consistently, as you know, because you're so knowledgeable about Robert's rules, they're quite detailed. So sometimes you will see a board choose to adopt its own rules of procedure that are not Robert's rules so that they don't have some of the formalities that are within those very comprehensive rules. So.
Well, that's true. And what I was really talking about here was the county boards. When we get to governing, when we get to qualified providers, we really can't. I don't know how much we can say except that what you just said, and also that we recommend. But we do need to say that we recommend that they under number 302 that they keep minutes. It doesn't say that in there, but that's I'm sorry, I'm on the next page already. But anyway, we can do that. Can we at least say something nationally recognized and go from there?
Well, but she just said that that might be too much. I mean,
okay, all right.
There are some groups that have set their own standards.
Okay, well, we'll just do any. How about what we said about standards earlier about a consistent standard? How about that?
Need to adopt and implement consistent rules of procedure.
Yeah, and
say must adopt and implement consistent rules of order of rules of procedure.
Rules of procedure is what it is. It's rules of procedure for any board. They just have to do something that's consistent so that they can, because otherwise you can't properly keep minutes. I mean, I don't think you can properly keep minutes otherwise. I mean, I don't see how you could if it wasn't, consistent. Anyway, so I guess that does that. I don't have anything else on there. I didn't mean to belabor that point so long, but I just think it's important. But then so many things are important to me, I know. I don't remember what we just said. What did we just say we were going to do about the amount of time they kept minutes? How were we going to say that?
I think it should be in our records retention policy. Let me look really fast.
If it is, then we need to reference the record retention policy here then. I know the agency has one, but I don't know that the boards have one.
This is not individual service records, not about.
I don't think it's going to talk about the boards. I don't think. Now, I could be wrong because my memory's not that good, but I mean, it's not that good, but I don't think it does. Talks about boards. And I'm also getting older every day, so my memory's not as good as it was. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just see the retention of individual service records. So that's not going to be board minutes, I don't think.
I don't either.
SCF, non-SCF. Let's have family support.
And if for some reason, Ms. Fry, you think we can't require them to keep them for a certain amount of time, we can certainly strongly recommend it. But I think we could require them to keep it because we may want to know what happened at a meeting.
Oh, I don't think that there's any reason that one cannot require a certain retention policy.
What time frame do you want me to?
I would say 5 to 7 years.
7 is.
Yes.
7?
I would say 7 years is what I would say. That's what they do for taxes. Isn't that
So
right,
the same
Michelle?
minutes must be retained for a minimum of 7 years. How about that?
Right.
Okay.
Isn't that what we do for taxes, Michelle?
Some part of taxes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's good for taxes is good for us here. So 7 years. Okay, now, on page 28, this is talking about governing boards. And so would what we just said about minutes and all that be in the governing boards as well? Or do we need to put that down here too? Page 28 starts talking about governing boards, so I think it's kind of separate, which is different, of course, than county boards. Because that's private providers we're talking about here. Qualified providers are private providers.
Unless the provider agency is a sole proprietor partnership. So this is if you're a contracted agency and you have a board, Ann? Yes. Because some contracted agencies do not have boards. They are not required to.
Right, I understand that. But I'm saying if you do. I think if they do, they should be, the minutes and the things we just talked about should apply to them too.
So add in 206, the equivalent of 206 into these.
We might want to do a carve out. I would propose that we would say as applied to their DDSN work, right? Because sometimes
Right.
you will have a large national entity and only one.
Oh, of course,
their
yes,
portfolio of
sure.
services. So we
Yes,
could
certainly.
we could mirror that language and then specify as related to their South Carolina
Perfect.
DDSN service.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful, yes. And in that regard, I'm just asking a question, and I'm not going to, because I don't know the answer to 303, but can we require what it says in 303 if somebody's a qualified provider and they don't, they get paid with state money, but they don't, obviously it's not, it's not like a county board. So can we, you all sure there's no problem with requiring 303?
They are applying and saying they meet these qualifications,
That's what I
so.
thought.
So you think we can give minimum qualifications like that?
Yeah, it's pretty minimum too, so.
Okay, if you say so. I'm just not sure I'm just not 100% certain of that, but if you think so, I'll agree with you. Let's see if I had, one other thing I had, page 31 of this document. I think that's the only other thing I have. Let me see. Well, let's do things. Sorry, 31 is next. Very as quickly as I can here. Sorry. It says under 504, it says employment of a relative or of the executive director. It should say an employment of a relative of the executive director or a contractor of a relative should not be used. I mean of a subcontractor of a relative should not be used either. Not just it says employment of under that, above that, it says when an agency is at DDSN board, it is a policy which prohibits the following, and one of the things it prohibits is the employment of or contracting with a board member or a relative of a board member. And then it says employment of a relative of the executive director. It should say employment of a relative of the executive director. No, sorry. I was trying to get to, I'm sorry, I didn't do that right.
I know exactly what you want me to mirror the first part of, you want me to say employment of or contracting of a relative of the executive director? Just like we
That's
said.
right. All right.
Of or
I'm trying to say that you
contracting
shouldn't
out
contract with a relative of the executive director either.
Yep. We can make that change, can't we, Ann? Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. I'm sorry, I didn't do that right. I didn't mean to take up so much else time today. Page. Wait 1 second, I'm reading one other one here. And I'm asking this one too, but this is just so important to me. But I'm not gonna, if you say no, I won't. I mean, I'll say that. I'll say that's fine. But under 607, I would just hope that we would say that we would ask them to on page 35 that we would ask them to review their finances on at least a quarterly basis, as opposed to just review their finances. I would hope we would ask them to do it at least on a quarterly basis. You might have an objection to that.
Doesn't it say quarter at a
It
minimum?
says quarter at a minimum.
It does?
DSM boards provide DVSN copies of financial statements at the end of each calendar quarter at a minimum.
Well, I'm sorry, it already says that. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
thought it didn't say that. I'm sorry. Okay,
Okay.
forget I said that, I'm sorry. The only other thing is, under 710, it has some interesting information about critical incidents and stuff, but I don't see any changes to it. But that would be interesting for anybody that wanted to, if anybody was reading this document, they should read 710, by the way. But anyway, other than that, I don't see anything else on this policy. If there's no other, if there's no objection and within 3 seconds, then we're going to approve this policy to be with the changes that we implemented. I mean, that we talked about here today, to be brought to board of the commission next week. I hear no objection, therefore we're going to do that.
So actually, this will go out for public comment.
This is, yeah.
Right. This will go out for public comment. So
Oh, I
it will
thought
come back to policy committee next month before it goes back to the commission.
Oh, sorry, I
This
didn't
is
realize that we
a
hadn't
new
done that
one,
one.
so it hasn't been out for public comment yet.
Lori,
Yes.
can y'all send me, this is Stephanie, can y'all send me a copy of that policy? I'd like to take a look at it.
Sure. And just send her
Thank you, dear.
Christie.
I appreciate that.
Why don't y'all make the changes we agreed to today and then send it to her, and then we'll put it out for public comment and go from there.
Correct.
That would be ideal. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, we got to, that's true, that one's got to go out for public comment. So anyway, it'll come back to us after public comment. So, but just remember, the public comment is only 10 days, and we would ask you that you would have your comments within 10 days, because we do not accept comments after 10 days, because we want to make sure we have plenty of time to bring it before the commission. I mean, the committee again. So we don't want to waste another month or use up another month moving this forward. In addition to the month we're already using up. So the last policy that we are dealing with today is general duties of the audit division, which is section C, and it is page 39 to 47 of your packet or notebook. and it relates to our internal auditor, and so therefore I will turn the floor over to our internal auditor to give us the recommended changes to this document.
Thank you. So your packet includes proposed revisions to 27505DD, which is general duties of the Internal Audit Division. So it is marked for informational purposes only. So the directive serves as our internal audit charter and requires approval by the Finance and Audit Committee. We did make 2 changes to the directive yesterday that are not included in your packet. So these changes were discussed with the policy chairman, so we wanted to bring those to your attention here. So after that review, the policy chairman did recommend 2 additional staff changes. So the first is in the authority section, which is on page 2 of the directive. It's page 40 of your packet. So the charter currently states that the Director of Internal Audit will have unrestricted access to and communicate and interact directly with the Finance and Audit Committee, including in private meetings without management present. So it was recommended that this be amended to add unrestricted access to the DDSN Commission as necessary. And the second recommended staff change is going to be page 8 of the directive, which is page 46 of your packet. So at the end of that financial sanctions section, we have added a paragraph that says internal audit is responsible for monitoring compliance with reporting deadlines established in the audit directive. So 27504 for the boards, 27506 for the contracted service providers, and that internal audit will report the results of monitoring to the finance division for invoicing of financial sanctions where required by policy. So both of those recommended changes have been made, and they're reflected in the Finance and Audit Committee's meeting packet that was sent out yesterday. And the Finance and Audit Committee will consider the proposed revisions during tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, does anybody else on our committee have any other comments regarding what she just said? If I don't hear any, I'm going to say one other thing, and we're going to move it to the Finance and Audit Committee. Okay, I haven't heard anything. So this will, with those recommended changes, which as she just said, were already in the policy, the Finance and Audit Committee document that was sent out. With those changes, we will defer the policy committee will defer this document now to the Finance Committee for approval tomorrow, so that we can bring it before the commission on next week, which is the plan, assuming they approve it tomorrow. So they're technically, since we're deferring it, even though since we're deferring it,
it should go out for public comment as well, Commissioner Malfris. So if it gets approved at Finance and Audit tomorrow, it will go out for public comment, and then it'll come back around the following month, because it hasn't been out for public comment yet.
But this is an audit. This is an internal audit policy, so I didn't realize I thought we weren't putting all those out for public comment.
It would be I would recommend that we put it out for public comment.
I agree.
Once approved, if it's approved by Finance and Audit tomorrow.
Okay, well, I'm not going to object to it then. So we'll see if they approve it, and then it'll go out for public comment, and then you're going to bring it back to the finance and to policy committee next month.
It'll go back to Finance and Audit, which is who governs the policy. And they'll vote on it after public comments received and responded to, and then it'll go to the commission. We can bring it back to policy for information, the way that we did this month, if you'd like to, after public comment. But from a
Well, I mean,
process, it really just has to go back to finance and audit and then to the commission.
well, I think that's fine, although technically the policy committee defers all of the policies to whomever they refer it to. So according to our procedures, so we are deferring it to them. So I guess you're right. I guess that would be, since we're deferring it to them, then it would go back to them. But we still have the option to defer or not to defer, but of course, in this case, we are. So, so anyway, we'll let that occur and we'll bring it for the full commission and go from there. Okay. That is going to pretty close to conclude our meeting for today, unless there's anything that anybody on the committee wants to say about regarding our regarding any information regarding the anything that relates to anything we just said today, unless there's any if there's no other things anybody wants to add to this meeting,
Commissioner
we will
Malphus.
what?
Commissioner Malphus, this is Commissioner Rawlinson. I'd just like to remind everyone, if possible, on this call that on October the 20th, the commission as a whole will meet down in the Low Country in Dorchester County Council chambers. The itinerary is we will open the meeting at 10, hopefully be done in there by 12. And then we will have a listening session for people to give public comment from 1 to 2:30. And then that afternoon, we will be touring the Coastal Center as commissioners. And just kind of wanted to touch base about that and remind everyone that that will be available. We will not do public comment during the commission meeting, since we are going to have a listening session that afternoon. We will remind you that this is not a time to slander anyone or to use the time to bring up employment matters, as that is not something that the commission gets involved in. So, and if anyone has legal action pending against the commission, they will not be allowed to address the commission. So just kind of want to remind everyone that that is coming up on the 20th of October, and we hope that everyone will be able to join us.
Thank you, ma'am. If there's nothing else, then I'm going to say that our next meeting is November 8th, and that we are planning to have a meeting at the same time, November 8th as of now at 3 o'clock, to bring up some additional policies that have not been brought up in a long time. So, and maybe some that have. I'm not, but I know there'll be several that have not been updated in quite some time that we will be discussing at that November meeting, as it will be more than likely our last one of the year. So, so if I don't hear an objection to adjourning, we are going to adjourn in 3 seconds. Okay, we are adjourned, my wonderful committee people, and thank you very much for the staff for all of their efforts.